A shaken maid carries a bloodied cloth from a child's room. Castle staff are rounded up and menaced by men in armor and snarling guard dogs. Later, in case you missed it, staff will dismantle a child's bed and the dead boy's body will be displayed to the world. Severed head clumsily reattached. A horrific crime has taken place, and one side in the brewing Targaryen civil war is determined that everyone should know about it. For yet another week, House of the Dragon is about aftermath rather than action, grief rather than get-go.
The child is dead. His pain is ended. But what they've done to Micah...
In his rage, King Aegon II smashes up his father's cherished model of King's Landing. His grief is real, but there's also the terror that he too could have been assassinated. He beats one of the captured assassins to death and orders the execution of all of the castle's pest control workers. Cue weeping and wailing outside the walls. Sir Otto calls him feckless, self-indulgent, an idiot.
Insolent pup.
Not entirely surprisingly, Otto is dismissed as Hand of the King, and Aegon tosses the office to Sir Criston. There's no way that anything could go wrong with that moody oathbreaker in charge. One of his first acts is to send Sir Eric with an A to Dragonstone to pretend to be his twin, Sir Eric with an E, and assassinate Rhaenyra. The Honorable Knight is appalled, but has his orders.
Would send me to my death.
Or to triumph. And glory.
Cole's regular booty call, Dowager Queen Alicent, is also going through it. She's worried that her daughter, Queen Helena, will reveal that Sir Criston was in her bed after the assassination. She's grieving her own loss and her daughter's unbearable pain. She reluctantly sees the wisdom in her father's plan to stage an open casket funeral and show the world the child's defiled corpse. And she assures Otto that they can get their power back, though he won't hear his daughter's attempts to confess a sin, presumably her relationship with Sir Criston. Alicent sees Aegon weeping and leaves him to it, calling her lover to her side again despite both their moral misgivings. There goes the Mother of the Year award. It's tough to get terribly invested in the King's Landing crowd. The conventionally nicest character is Helena, but she's off in another world. Alicent seems to have some good impulses, but is also conniving against her former best friend. She's also allied with Sir Larys, but terrified of him at the same time. It's not a good scene.
When the people share our grief, they draw closer to us.
I don't want them closer.
Meanwhile, on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra is appalled that anyone might believe she's responsible for Jaehaerys' murder. But as Daemon watches her discussion, she sees the truth in a slightly amused face. Cue their biggest argument ever, which is not unreasonable given that he killed a literal child. He says he sent the Queen's vengeance, but cannot be responsible for his killers hitting the wrong target. My dude, legally you absolutely can be. What's more, he absolutely has damaged Rhaenyra's cause, perhaps irreparably.
Do you accept me as your queen and ruler? Or do you cling even now to what you think you lost?
We all know his answers are no and yes, and he stalks off with his dragon Caraxi. Rhaenyra honors Daemon's promise to give Mysaria her freedom. A big swing, given the proven flexibility of her loyalties. At least the current crisis has forced Rhaenyra to take the reins again, which is good. She also seems to have a firm alliance now with Rhaenys, who gets a little bit more to do on the Black Council. Rhaenys and Corlys also have a fun scene in bed together, using politics as pillow talk. It's nice to see them given more to do so far this season. That said, while House of the Dragon displays a marked preference for the Blacks in a way that George R.R. Martin's source material doesn't, there's not a huge amount of character here. Rhaenyra is so reserved, and her children largely still just sketches. Her council are a mass of barely delineated figures shouting at her, and there's little sense for the wider stakes of Westeros beyond King's Landing and Dragonstone, despite the trip to the Wall last week.
Winter is coming.
On her way to the boat, Mysaria spots what appears to be Sir Eric coming up from the shore. Which is strange, since she just left him in the castle. She pauses, and it's not entirely clear if she's going to go back and warn the castle that a doppelganger is among them. This felt like slightly loose storytelling. Maybe a scene was edited out. Anyway, Sir Eric, with an A, infiltrates Dragonstone, though his twin finds him just in time, and the pair have a brutal duel. Eric, with an E, finally deals his brother a fatal blow and cradles him as he dies, before falling on his own sword.
No! No!
It should be a devastating finale, and it is, a little. But we haven't spent enough time with either character for it to really hurt as much as it did when, say, Brienne fought the Hound. Outside those main story strands, this was a good episode for people not born with a dragon egg in their cradle and an overly complicated family tree. We get another look at Alan of Hull and meet his brother Adam, who's a little easier going than his older sibling. Adam also gets an odd scene where he watches a pale dragon circling overhead. We also get another glimpse of the smith, Hugh, who petitioned the king last episode. Here, we see that his family are struggling to put food on the table and that his daughter is sick. The stakes for him are higher than for any of the Targaryens. Not that they're likely to appreciate that. There's also one final newcomer, as yet unnamed, but played by Love and Friendship's Tom Bennett. It's fair to guess that he's here to do more than simply stare at dead rat catchers.
What'd I do?
Rhaenyra the Cruel is directed by Claire Kilner, who did 3 episodes on Season 1. She manages the chaos of those opening moments well, with a handheld camera following running figures through the Red Keep. But it's a heavy-hearted episode, weighed down by the grief of almost all of the main cast. Even Jack and Bela talk about loss. Still, it's effective in showing the different ways that loss can spur people into ill-advised action or keep them paralyzed, and there's drama in that.
Fire from the sky! This is war! I declare war!
The thing about buildup is that it can provide a satisfying sense of growing tension and excitement, or it can block an artery. If House of the Dragon does much more slow building, it may lapse into the second sort of buildup rather than the first. In Rhaenyra the Cruel, Rhaenyra is back at the head of her council. Daemon is once again a wildcard, and Alicent is desperately trying to keep her warring family in check. Would it be unkind to ask for more dragons from House of the Dragon? Even exchanging one scene in council for a single reptile would help. It feels like we're ready for the next step. Let's move.
We must press what advantage we do have.
And what is that?
Dragons.
For more House of the Dragon, check out our review of the season premiere and our roundtable with the cast. And for everything else, stick with IGN.